everybody. Welcome to this episode of Backstage, the Advanced Podcast. Today, I am joined by my friend and astronaut enthusiast, Lexie, and my other friend and kangaroo extraordinaire, Peter. How are y'all doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, great.
Well, we are talking about forgiveness today and what forgiveness looks like. Last week, we talked about holding grudges and when you're angry at people and, you know, not wanting to give it up. So I wanted to lean into that a little bit more today and talk about things in our lives where we've been frustrated and where there are sometimes where you just want to latch on to something and just not let go. It just feels good to be angry sometimes. And as I was thinking of a question to open that up, I was wondering, what was the dumbest thing you ever got mad at somebody for as a kid, as a teenager, or as an adult, if one sticks out? What was the dumbest thing you got mad at somebody for?
I don't know if this is dumb because it was dumb for me or it was dumb that they would do this to me, but my older sister, for some reason, thought that if I slept in past 8 o'clock, that I was like wasting my life. Like even as like a child, like 8-year-old. And every Friday, my mom would make us clean the entire house. So over summer, after 8 o'clock hit on a Friday, my older sister would take her giant karaoke machine that we had, put it in front of my bedroom door, turn the music all the way up, and just hit play. Until I came out, like, just ready to kill her.
No.
Because then I'd be like, what are you doing? Like, let me sleep. And she would be like, you're wasting your life. We got to get up and clean the house, so get up. And I would get so angry. Oh, I still, I'm angry about it today. So
You've just stirred up something I haven't thought about in years, which is we had a Monday off for, it might have been like Martin Luther King Day or something, where you only get a day. Me and my brother are so excited about sleeping in. My dad woke us up at like 6 a.m. He was like, it's breakfast. I'm cooking breakfast. Y'all got to get up.
Oh.
Dad, what are you doing?
You made me think about something else. So I would get mad about this. And so at some point in my life, I don't really remember when, it was like sometime in middle school, my mom just decided one day,
So it cut off right there where you said, where you started telling
Audio?
me cleaning the house story. Yes.
all right, start over.
I'm going to do, how was I posed?
My mom just decided one day that she was tired of cleaning the house and that she was going to hire people to clean the house. And so I'm like, great. Like, I don't have to help anymore. This is awesome. Well, so I don't know how this works, but she was like, okay, the cleaning people are coming. We need to clean the house. And I'm like, Mom.
What?
I don't think that's how that's supposed to work. Like, she was like, no, you have to get things out of the way, like make sure that it's all set up. And I'm like, but no, they're supposed to clean the house.
They clean it.
That doesn't make any sense.
So I have one that's, it's a little embarrassing, but I'm going to tell it anyway. I was really into wrestling when I was a kid.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. And this is when I was probably 8, 9, 10, somewhere in that range.
15. No, probably not.
29, whatever. But never had I ever seen a pay-per-view, which was like, that was the thing.
Right.
They save all the best stuff and the crazy stuff for the pay-per-view. And my sister told me one week, she was like, I got some friends that are having a party, and they're buying WrestleMania, the pay-per-view. It's this Sunday, and we're going to go. I'm going to take you. I was so jacked for that all week. And then on Sunday afternoon, I still don't know what happened. Sunday afternoon, she's like, yeah, I'm not really feeling it. I don't think we're going to go. And that was it. And then I very calmly went downstairs to remove myself from everybody and started throwing a temper tantrum, just throwing pillows as hard as I could against the wall. I was like picking the couch up and down and slamming it.
You were reenacting WrestleMania.
Right.
Yeah,
that's
what you were.
I was like, if I can't see WrestleMania, I'm going to be WrestleMania.
WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean, so I had the good sense not to like punch a wall or anything because
That's good.
I don't think I would have survived if my mom ever would have found out I put a hole in the wall. But in hindsight, it's kind of stupid, right? I mean, just like you look back and you're like, well, I'm going to cut myself some slack because I was 9 or 10, but all that's out there for free now, and maybe
You can
it
watch
wasn't
it as much as you want now.
Yeah, I can, and sometimes I do. Well, whether it was somebody waking you up too early or not taking you to the party for WrestleMania, whatever the case was, what's the longest you've ever gone without forgiving somebody?
For me, I think it was around 3 years. But the hard thing is like, after the things happened that made me angry, I thought that I had forgiven my friend.
Sure.
But like years later, in like a quiet place when I was just like alone with myself, it was like all these feelings like bubbled up, and I was like, oh man, like I don't think I ever forgave this person. And I had to like confront that head on.
Having imaginary conversations in your head and stuff?
Oh, you know it. You know, like what would I do if I saw this person in the grocery store? If they called me, like, oh, I would just give it to them, you know?
You hit them.
But maybe I shouldn't, you know? Just like all of those emotions that go into
good
like...
one-liner, and then you just hang up?
Yep. Or like, you know how usually in cartoons where they have like the angel and like the demon on your shoulder, like telling you to do something good, or telling you to do something bad? It would be like me being like, oh man, you know, like I would so fight her if I ever saw her again, you know? And then like another part of me was like, well, you know, you probably shouldn't do that. And, you know, like you should forgive her. But like understanding how to forgive somebody that you had been mad at for that long is just like a whole other ordeal.
What about you, Peter? Anything coming to mind?
Yeah, so let's see, this is a while back. I got really mad at this guy who I worked with, and it was not you, Jess.
It wasn't me.
But some of my coworkers, we affectionately call this time the dark days because it just hurt that bad. But anyway, so this guy, he just decided that he was going to make this huge change, and I was not on board with it. I did not agree with it, and I vocalized that. We had some conversations, which it's fine and good, but at the end of the day, like I got burned really bad.
Yeah.
Like I got burned and hurt really bad, and so, I mean, I went months without like saying anything, just kind of like letting my anger and frustration just fester. And eventually I was like, okay, I should apologize. That's the right thing to do. So like, apologize. Sorry. Yep. We're good. Okay. It's fine. But like recently, like within the past year, I saw this person and I was like, I am not... like I still deal with this. Yeah, I am not over this. I still like I saw them and it was like fear, anxiety, anger, like all this stuff, and I'm like, what? I thought I was over this. Like it's been years, like since
So this
event.
is still like going on now?
Yeah, to an extent, and it's like so. I think it's interesting because I do think that forgiveness and healing, especially when you're burned, like that takes some time, and so I don't know necessarily. It's like maybe I have forgiven them, but it still just hurts. But I don't know if I don't know. Maybe the hatchet hasn't totally been buried.
Maybe
I don't know. But that's my example.
Yeah.
And so I think in a lot of ways it still comes up.
So I thought of one as I was prepping for this. So I got dumped by a girl when I was in, I guess at the end of my freshman year. Maybe the start of my sophomore year, I can't remember.
Of high school?
Of high school, yeah. And
it's gonna be good. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's first time I'd ever gotten dumped too. So it was a rough year, and then and then I was like, okay, I'm over it, whatever. Fast forward, what would that be? 1, 2, 3, 4 years. I'm in college. I'm sitting in a college class, and I am going through my email and I see like the list of folders on the side, and I see the folder that has all of our back and forths, because I didn't have a cell phone, so like that was how we would we would send emails back and forth. I saw that folder and I opened it and I just went in and I started like reading a bunch of emails, and I was like, and I was sitting in it was a usability and testing class. I was physically sweating. I was reading the emails. I was so angry. I was like, I want to grab the monitor and throw it out the window. And then I just after I came down of all the chemicals in my head kind of leveled out a little bit. I was like, so I guess I'm not really totally over this, huh? Yeah. I guess this still kind of hurts.
You said that was 4 years later?
Yeah. Because it was I was in college whenever that second part happened, and I got dumped at the end of my freshman year, I think. So, it's not great. I'm not particularly proud of it. I'm fine now, but at the time I realized, I guess when you just like stuff it all down and don't actually deal with it and just try to get far enough away from it.
It is still there.
It is still there. It never actually goes away. Well, what about on the other side? Have you ever had a time where you just like massively screwed up and you were like, I don't know how I'm gonna deal with this. I don't know how I'm gonna get out of this. I don't know how I'm gonna pay for this. Whatever it is, and somebody just unexpectedly wiped the slate clean and forgave you.
Oh, yes. No, I have a great one.
Okay.
Okay. So when I was a kid, my favorite thing to do was like play basketball in my driveway. I loved playing basketball. And my parents, because they trusted me for whatever reason, would let me move their cars out of the driveway when I wanted to play basketball. Like even when I was like 9 years old.
9 okay.
9 years old.
Yeah,
You're moving. You're
they
shuffling
had, like,
cars.
extreme trust for me my whole life. I'm
Wow.
not totally sure why, but like maybe not 9. Let's say like 10 and up. They would let me do this.
Oh, 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit
That
better.
changes
A little
everything.
bit better. But you also have to realize that I was like a taller kid, so like it wasn't as
You could
awkward.
reach the pedals.
Yeah, I didn't have to like stretch to do anything. So anyway, this one day I wanted to play basketball. My dad was home, and so was my mom. And my mom had a car. My dad had a truck. My dad's a landscaper, so he had like a big trailer full of all of his equipment that he kept in the garage. And when he got home from like work, he would detach the trailer and like leave the garage like halfway open because like the trailer hitch would like stick out.
Yep.
Anyway, so I walk into the house and I'm like, Mom, Dad, I really want to play basketball in the driveway. And I said, Dad, can I move your car? But I meant his truck, but I had just used the word car. And he was like, oh, yeah, go for it. The keys are on the counter. But the keys weren't on the counter. They were in his hat. So I was like, oh, that's weird. But my mom's car keys were on the counter. So he thought I was talking about my mom's car, but I was talking about his truck. And he had just gotten home, and I did not know that he had not yet detached his trailer from his truck.
Still hooked
and
up.
I didn't even look because he always detached it when he got home, right? So I get my dad's truck.
And you're 10 and you
there's-
don't know how to drive.
At this point,
Also-
I was 12. I was 12.
Okay.
So there was this boy in my neighborhood who was just my friend. I didn't have a crush on him or anything, but he was like way older than me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, he was outside. So I was like, oh man, Harry's never seen me drive my parents' cars before. I'm gonna look so cool. So I like crank up the radio.
Didn't have a crush on him at all.
Yeah. So I like crank up the radio and like, turn the truck on, put it in drive, and I'm not even hitting the gas. I'm just like rolling down the driveway. But like behind the music, that's all the way up. You just hear like this noise, and I'm like, what is that? And didn't hit the brakes yet, and I turn around, and the garage is like coming at me.
Oh.
Like I am pulling the garage with me down the driveway. So I panic and go to hit the brakes, but I hit the gas, and I like fly out of the driveway, and I pull my dad's trailer through the garage and pull the whole front of the garage with me.
No.
Yeah, into the street, right? So finally, like, I get it in park, and I'm just sitting in the middle of the road in my dad's truck, like, what just happened? Like, I don't know what to do. And my dad, of course, like, runs out the front door thinking something happened. One of the only times I've ever seen my dad cry. Like, tears well up in his eyes, and he's like, what did you do? And I was like, I'm not really, I did not know what to say. So he just goes like, get out of my face. Like, I don't even know what to do with you right now. So I go in my room and like, I'm just in shock. Like, wasn't even crying, like just sat there. Like, I don't know what is happening right now. Like a couple weeks go by and I went to work with my dad because he would let us do that on Saturdays sometimes. And he would go to the dump and like get rid of debris that he'd cut from trees and bushes and stuff. And he gets out of the car and he goes, I need to see how close the truck is to the dumpster, but I can't be in the driver's seat when I do it. And he hands me the keys and he goes, can you move the truck close to the dumpster? And I like looked at him and I was
Big
like,
moment.
I don't know if I can drive the truck again. And he was like, the only way you're going to get over this is to drive it again. And he was like, you made a mistake, but I still trust you. Can you back up the truck to the dumpster?
What a
and I
bro.
was like,
Seriously.
okay, Dad. It's like such a huge moment because I didn't feel like I deserved that forgiveness.
Right.
Sure.
And he like just gave it to me openly and took a risk, letting me drive his truck again.
Yeah.
So when he did that, it was just like a, you know how people say there's like a washed over feeling where it's just like, oh, like, that was me in that moment. And I like moved the truck, and after that we would still joke around about the garage, and he would always say he was going to tell everybody about it, but like it was never like an angry thing. It was more of like, man, one day I'm going to tell this at your sweet 16, and I'm going to tell this at your wedding, and like all that kind of stuff. So.
What about you, Peter?
So my story, this is back when I was working at YMCA Camp Harrison. So this was my first summer working there, and they put me literally in charge of running the ropes course. So I am 19 years old, and I am responsible for kids hanging in the air, like 50 feet in the air.
You got it.
Yeah, easy. So anyway, so I had gone to training and everything. Like they sent me through the proper training and everything. And so they had this thing at our camp called the giant swing. Okay, so basically, this kid climbs up like a 6-foot ladder. You clip them in, you put the ladder down, you like hoist them up. Like you literally, like a team of people like pull them up in the air, and there's like a little quick release, and they pull it.
Yep.
And it releases you, and you swing, and you're like 30 feet in the air, and it's really cool.
One person or like 2 or 3 people?
It's like 3, right?
We just did one person at a time. There are some camps, like I think Windy Gap does like 3 people or whatever. But anyways, so ours was just one. So, so it was my first week on the job.
No.
We're doing the giant swing.
I'm nervous. I'm so scared.
Yeah, wait for it. So I'm clipping this kid up. He's probably 8 or 9, maybe. And so clip this kid up. Awesome. Hoist him up in the air. We're like, all right, whenever you're ready. He's pulling the quick release, and I look, and the 6-foot ladder is still up.
No.
Oh boy.
He releases himself, swings, like smacks this ladder. Ladder goes flying like into like the woods like behind this swing. I'm like, oh my gosh. He's dead.
He's dead. I just killed a kid.
He wasn't dead, thankfully, but he was crying. He had like a big bruise on like his hip, like he hit it like at his side. And anyway, so I stop him. We get him down. Like someone else, like we ran and got like a different ladder while someone was getting the other ladder from the woods. We get him down. I'm like, are you okay? He's crying. He's like, my hip hurts. So like, I like radio the nurse. She comes and gets him. He was fine. Again, he just had like a big bruise. Right. But in this moment, I'm like, well, this has been a great job.
Yep.
One weekend, I'm done.
Get my name tag and my keys. I'll go turn them in at the desk.
Go turn them in. And I had this moment of like, I was like, I mean, the camp director wasn't down there. I'm like, do I tell him? I'm like, I had this like debate, kind of like the angel and like demon story. Yeah. And I was like, no, like I need to tell him. And so we go up, like activity time is over. Lunch was next. We go up for lunch, and my camp director's name was Dave. And I was like, Dave, I need to let you know, like a kid hit the ladder on the giant swing today. He was like, is he okay? And I'm like, yeah, he's fine. I think he's just gonna have like a bad bruise.
Yep.
And Dave looked at me. I will never forget this moment. It was like a great leadership moment, forgiveness moment. He looked at me and he said, Peter, it's happened before, and it'll probably happen again. You're doing a great job.
Aww.
You got this.
And that was it.
And you talk about that washed over feeling of like, oh, thank God. that was it. You're like, oh, okay. And I asked him about it like years later, because I worked there for like almost 6 years. And I asked him like years later. I was like, do you remember that? And he was like, I do not remember that. And I'm
insignificant for him.
Yeah,
it was a Tuesday for him.
Right.
Like another kid swung into the ladder.
And I'm like, wow, like it's such like a defining moment for me, and like even the way that like I lead people and things like that, and it's just like, wow, that was huge.
Yeah.
So being on this side of forgiveness, of receiving it, and then thinking about the people that you are angry at, or not necessarily currently, but the people you've been angry at before. What is it? I don't know if you both are like this, but I know that I am. There are times when I just want to be angry at the person who did something wrong, however insignificant it might have been. And it's like, and like you said, angel on your shoulder is like, you should forgive them. And you're like, no,
but I don't want to
because I'm right. They were wrong. What is it that makes you not want to forgive people? What is the thing that typically is you're like, why, if the angel says, why don't you want to forgive them? What's the response?
I mean, I think part of it, like, and probably for most people, it's just like there was some amount of trust with this person, and that is gone.
Yep.
Right? Like it's like we had some sort of relationship, and it is just like shattered or broken at this moment, and it's just hard because you feel so, I don't know, like. You feel like you just got stabbed in the back, and you're like, ouch, that hurt.
Well, I think it gets misconstrued that like forgiveness means like, oh, we're fine now, because I don't believe that that's true. I think sometimes you can forgive, And if somebody is like a hurtful person in your life, there's nothing wrong with being like, maybe
Yeah.
we should not be friends for now.
Because there are, and that's another thing on the opposite end of the spectrum. That's what we struggle with is people assume that forgiveness means like everything's goes back to
Everything's
right where
fine
it was.
now.
The scales are balanced, and that's not true. Like
Yeah.
like forgive and forget is like the thing, but it's like
Do you forget?
It's not always
No.
wise to forget.
Yeah.
Right. I think for me, and I've seen this in a lot of my relationships, is I am pretty quick to forgive. Like I don't know, for whatever reason, I'm like, yeah, man, we're good. Like it was just a mistake. And then maybe that's just like a changing perspective. It's like if you can view things from someone else's perspective.
Right.
And there are varying levels of forgiveness as well. Like, I mean, if you get really hurt and really cut deep, like it's going to take a lot more to forgive something like that sort of scenario. Whereas if like, hey man, this happened, my bad.
Yeah.
Like they're like, those are two very different things. Like it's easy to forgive one, it's harder to forgive the other.
Yeah.
And so, I definitely don't want to forgive and forget. Like something happened there.
Right.
I always like to say like I don't regret a whole lot because I feel like we learn from a lot of different of our experiences, and I think that also applies. It's like I don't want to forget because like we can learn from this experience together. Like whether it's like a friend or boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever, it's like we can learn from this and grow in this, and I think that that's important to remember as well.
Yeah.
I think that like forgiveness is often really a confusing term because again, like we think like, oh, you forgive somebody, everything's back to normal, or like, oh, forgiving somebody takes some time. But in preparing for this podcast and over like the past couple of weeks, I've looked at like different definitions of forgiveness, and there was one that like super stuck out to me that made a lot of sense, and it was that like forgiving somebody is giving up the emotion or the feeling that somebody owes you. So
Interesting.
So it's
Yeah.
zeroing the debt.
exactly.
essentially.
So not necessarily trusting them again, or even not having those ill feelings of like, like the distrust and the anger or whatever, but just giving up that feeling that they owe you something, like almost going past what they did and then working towards trusting them again if you want to stay their friend,
Yeah.
or even just like want to get over those bad feelings that you have towards them or whatever. But like forgiveness in my mind and healing are two different things.
Ooh, that's good.
Well, Lexie, I think that kind of hit the nail on the head there, and I think that is the thing that messes up is whenever we're wronged, we think like, okay, I got to forgive them. I'm just gonna force forgiveness right now, and the reality is like to get over it, to like to deal with like emotionally the immediate trauma, for lack of a better term, and then to build up trust and to emotionally work through like I trust them, they broke it. It takes time, and I think that I guess that's what I think would help a lot of people to hear is just like, if you're angry at somebody and you're frustrated, like you shouldn't stay that way, but you do need to take time to work through it. Don't feel like you just have to, it's not a fight where it's like, if I just hit this thing hard enough, it's going to go down. It's like you're going to have to work through it and wade through it. You can't just be like, I'm going to ignore it and stuff it down, or I'm just going to say I forgave them, and then you find out years and years later that you hadn't. Just like it's a process.
Yeah. And I think it's true like for Christians and non-Christians that like those feelings that are released when you forgive somebody can hold you back until you forgive. So that it's not just like a thing that Christians would need to do is forgive, you know, but it's a thing that even if you don't believe in Jesus or have any type of faith whatsoever, like those feelings can hold you back. And like it's important.
Well, thanks both of you for sitting down. This has been fun. You should both come back to the table sometime. And for those of you watching, thanks for watching. Make sure you, what action verb should we use? Smash the subscribe button.
Yeah,
Crush,
subscribe,
crush
like,
the subscribe button.
Follow, everything.
Yep. And
Share.
we will see you Sunday at the best place to be.